Hello there, welcome back to my channel. So for today, I will be talking about vintage fragrances. So these fragrances that I have were released between 70s to 80s, I believe, and I think some of these are still available in the market today. So I'm not really into vintage fragrances. I smelled several vintage fragrances, and most of them, they are not something that I usually enjoy to wear. I just thought that they are not for me, but I find them interesting because their scent is quite different than the scents that we are used to these days. Mostly they are more stronger, they are deep, and usually floral, and I'm not really into floral scent except those sweet light floral scents that we have now, but those strong powdery or just strong floral scent like in those days, they are not really something that I enjoy to wear. And I notice most vintage fragrances have that type of scent. Today we're going to explore these vintage fragrances in my collection and see what we think about these fragrances. So first one here is Giorgio EDT by Giorgio Beverly Hills. And this was released in 1981, and this is a floral fragrance, no surprise there. So the interesting fact that I could remember in this perfume is this was banned during the 80s in the restaurants, cinemas, those types of places. You're not allowed to wear this particular perfume because this was like too strong or offensive to wear in those places. So that kind of intrigued me, like what sort of perfume was actually being banned. Well, maybe in those times, but today I'm sure that's no longer happening. It is strong though, but when you say strong, I feel like there are more offensive or quite overwhelming perfume these days. Although this one, I would say it has like a strong floral scent, but almost like a soapy scent to me as well. Really vintage. It's overwhelming though. It is vintage smelling, but not smoky because other vintage scent. When you say vintage, one thing that comes into my mind is Shalimar. Quite like smoky. It's a leathery scent. It has that incense, but this one not. This one is vintage but floral. It actually has a bright floral scent. I could imagine this one more of like a daytime scent. It's bright floral, a little soapy and clean as well. I don't actually find offensive. I don't find this perfume offensive, although I would say this is quite strong for an EDT. If you are going to overspray this one, then I think this is really going to be too much. Actually, one time I spilled this on me halfway here. It's not because I keep wearing it, but I accidentally spill it on me, and really it is really super strong. I feel like my stomach would turn, made me sick. So I think if you will just put a little on this, then it's fine, but if you overspray this one, then really is overwhelming. So I'm not going to talk about notes in this video, because another thing that I noticed with vintage fragrances is they do have a lot of notes in their perfume. So next is Lulu by Cacharel. So that's the mini bottle. Very cute. Looks like a toy to me. Looks like a plastic. So this one came out in 1987. This one is described as floral amber. I like the sound of amber. Floral amber. This one is, again, vintage smelling. These are kind of familiar fragrances when I was a kid. I feel like I keep smelling this one in those days. Of all the notes listed, I feel like I'm getting more of the cinnamon, ilang-ilang, a little bit of the incense, and the amber. I think that's what makes it sweet. This one is sweet floral, but not like sweet floral like we have now. This has still that vintage vibe on it. Perhaps it's the incense that's giving it that sweet, smoky type of scent. I like it though. I feel like I can wear this one than the Giorgio Beverly Hills. This one has a strong floral scent in the opening, but not jasmine or sampaguita scent. And as it settles on your skin, it becomes sweeter. The dry down surprised me because it really smells like Play-Doh. It really smells like Play-Doh, especially when you get into the dry down. I have worn this one before on my skin after few minutes, 1 hour. After an hour, I would say it really smells like Play-Doh. It's so sweet, like Play-Doh. If you're familiar with the scent, that's how it smells like to me, which I'm surprised for a vintage fragrance. Longevity, it actually lasts long on my skin as well. It's about 6 to 8 hours. Next is another Cacharel, and this one is Anai. This one, I can still see this one for sale on other shops actually. So I think this is still available until now. I did not actually expect that this is like an old fragrance. This came out 1978, older than the other two that I've shown you. This perfume, my mom said she owned this one long time ago. So when she said that, I did smell this one right away, and I agree. I've definitely smelled this one on her. Really, really familiar. Brings back childhood memories. I like the memories that it gives me, but I don't see myself wearing this fragrance that has a very, very strong floral scent. It almost had the same vibe as Giorgio. So 80s and early 90s vibe. Actually, it isn't bad. As it settles in your skin, it becomes lighter. It has that soapy scent again. I don't know what note is that. Same as that, the one in Giorgio. I'm getting like a soapy, clean scent in it, but it's quite strong. I was expecting this to be powdery, but this one here, no, it's not powdery at all. It's quite soapy. Almost like a liquid soap, a liquid cleaning soap, or like a detergent. Gives me like that clean linen scent as well. I actually find this one a beautiful vintage classic fragrance, the kind of scent that you barely smell in today's fragrances. I think you would like this one, especially if you're into classic vintage floral scents. So next is Paloma Picasso EDP. So that's the mini bottle there. This came out 1984 and is described as Chypre. So this is, I heard, quite a complicated scent. So I am a little intrigued and nervous as well. So I'm not familiar with the brand nor Paloma Picasso. So I did some readings, and Paloma Picasso is a daughter of the famous painter Picasso. So I'm not that fond of paintings or art, but I do sure heard the name Picasso along with other famous artists we have. So what I've read is Paloma is not that new when it comes to perfumery, as her grandfather on her mother's side is a perfumer. So growing up as a child, she is quite familiar and exposed to perfumes, combining ingredients and all those stuff. So Paloma's favorite perfume is Chanel No. 5. So she wants her perfume to have some aldehydic accords or notes to it as well. But don't be confused with this perfume and Chanel No. 5 because they are not similar at all. I find Paloma Picasso's perfume more complex than Chanel No. 5. Chanel No. 5, only in the beginning, I'm not fan of that perfume, but during the dry down it becomes a very soft, feminine, powdery scent. But Paloma Picasso's one is more complicated, and because of its complexity, it's kind of hard to market or to sell. And she is kind of worried that her associates would actually change the ingredients, the formula, but lucky for her, it did not happen. I agree of it being complex, but aside from that, I find the perfume quite artistic. It is not just made to smell good or to sell in the market. I can tell that there is someone behind it who actually has that being creative and artistic. I feel like only those types of people, or those really perfume enthusiasts, or those into perfumery, could really understand that composition of that scent. But ordinary people like me, it's hard for me to like relate to the scent. I find it kind of weird, or I don't like wearing it on myself, to be honest. So I like to smell it. I like the uniqueness of the perfume, so I'd like to keep it in my collection, but I don't really enjoy wearing it. So this one has oak moss in it and some unusual notes derived from animals such as civet and possum as well. This one has a strong leathery scent. Leather, smoky, I think the smoky leathery scent in it. The smokiness kind of reminds me of like a burning leaf. I remember before in my country, like in a countryside, people used to burn leaves every afternoon. I'm not sure the reason why. I think to drive the insects, the flies, I'm not sure. But every afternoon there are people like burning leaves in there, and that smell reminds me of it. It smells like that. Also smells like a bit like an ashtray. It is smoky but doesn't smell like tobacco. It isn't sweet smoky scent. It is smoky like a leather or like a burning tire, burning leaves. Smells like that. And the dry down, it has a slightly resinous scent in it that I'm getting. For me, it isn't a feminine scent. To me, it's more, it could be unisex. I feel like I've smelled this one before from a niche fragrance that I have sampled. Smells like niche to me. Vintage smelling, but also smells like a niche fragrance. Interesting smell. Unique, a little weird. totally not everyone's cup of tea. I don't see myself to be enjoying wearing this one, but I do like to keep this in my collection because I like the scent. It's quite interesting. This could be one of the perfumes that I have tried. Mostly those niche fragrances that I like to smell, but I don't think I would love to smell it on myself. I like it though. I don't have a lot of this type of fragrances in my collection. Sometimes I like to keep fragrances even though they are not something that I would reach more often. But if they are something unique, quite different, not the usual kind of scent, I do love to keep them in my collection. Then I have here Fidji by Guy Laroche. So this was released in 1966. So Fidji, the name Fidji is actually from the island of Fiji. So this is when the managers of the house, Guy Laroche house, were on a holiday in the Fiji island, and this is when they have came up when this perfume is born and called Fidji. So I assume the scent is supposed to give you that holiday vibe, being in the beach, in an island. But to me, I'm not getting a tropical vibe in it. There's no fruity scent. I could imagine being in Hawaii. I don't know, but that's the first thing that I could imagine when I smell this one. I'm imagining more flowers near an island. The opening is a little citrusy, it's cooling, it's clean, and it's fresh. And then after that, I'm getting that floral vintage scent. The scent reminds me again of being in the early 90s when I was a kid. Reminds me of the scent of all these jars, bottles of perfume sitting in a drawer for a long time. It smells so strange and quite strong to me. Smells vintage and old, but I do like to keep this one for that reason of giving me that childhood memories again. And the floral scent in here, though it's vintage, it smells old, but it isn't as strong and overpowering as the other vintage fragrances that I have, like the Giorgio by Giorgio, Beverly Hills, and Anai. This one is lighter and more clean and fresh smelling. And last vintage fragrance that we have is Lauren by Ralph Lauren. This fragrance came out 1978. I'm not sure if this is still available until now because I haven't seen this fragrance before nor heard this fragrance by Ralph Lauren. So this one is described as floral green fragrance. To me, this is indeed green. Really smells like a green grass or a freshly cut grass. Especially as it settles on my skin, really is literally like grass. I know there are some fragrances that I describe as green, like green notes, but this one literally like you are scrubbing like leaves in your skin. That's the scent that you're getting. It's like the juice of a green leaf. I used to play leaves and flowers before when I was a kid and pretend to be cooking them. I crush them, pretend to cook them, and this perfume brings me back to those memories because of the scent. It literally smells like leaves. Aside from that, it's a bit oily as well. It is like an herbal oil or herbal essence. So I don't know if I like this one. Well, it's unique. It's interesting. Get that kind of scent. I appreciate the scent though I don't see myself wearing it. Plus the longevity of this one. I'm not sure if this is still the actual formulation or perhaps this could be reformulated already. I don't know, but it doesn't perform well on my skin. It just disappears right away in less than an hour, which is slightly odd because most of these fragrances that I have tried now, they last hours and hours on my skin except this one. So I don't really judge a perfume according to their scent because that is subjective. Just because you don't like the scent doesn't mean that it's a bad perfume. You just don't like it, but other people like it. But as for the performance, that is the only thing that I don't like about this perfume. So that's all the vintage fragrances that I have at the moment. Though they are not my type of scent that I often reach for or I actually enjoy wearing, but I do appreciate most all of them. I feel like they are so unique. They are so different from the fragrances that we have now. I could barely smell these types of fragrances nowadays, so I'm glad to have them in my collection. So that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching and see you again next time.